Buttons. They can be the best or most frustrating thing through the InDesign workflow. In this situation, my student was making a cookbook. And as she clicks on this button, she wants 3 different actions to happen. She wants to be able to click on it and show step 1. She wants to click on it again, hide step 1 and show step 2. Click on it one more time, hide step 2, show step 3. When you end up adding all the actions to that specific button and you click on it, it goes from step 1 all the way to step 3. How annoying and frustrating. Is there a way we can work around this? Yes, but it's a little bit tedious. First off, left click on your arrow button, go to your buttons and forms. What we're going to end up doing is we're actually going to remove this action. The reason being is because there is no stop state. So for example, when you do this first action, it's supposed to go through the action, stop, reset itself before it goes to the next action. InDesign doesn't have that capability like Flash or several other programs has. So we're going to actually have to rig it another way. So we're going to remove this action. And then this first action we have is what's going to happen when we first click on it. So when we first click on this button, we want step 1 to show. We don't want step 2 or step 3 to show. So we're going to make sure that the eyeball is slashed out for no visibility. The back button we want to show, which is our spoon down here, to go back to the previous page. Next pumpkin 3 is our button. We're going to want that to actually hide. And the reason being is because we're going to put 2 identical arrow buttons right behind it to go to the next step in order to fix this problem. Now this is where it gets even trickier. First off, you'll notice that there's several other options down here. That's actually because we have the facing pages option on. So we have 2 different pages at once that we're dealing with. Let's make it simpler by going up to File, Document Setup, and click Off Facing Pages and hit OK. Now we're 1 page per panel. So now when I click back on this button and go back to my buttons and forms, I only have the few selected ones that are on this specific page. So again, when we click on the arrow, we're going to end up showing step 1. We're going to have the back button show. We're going to hide next pumpkin 3 and the other steps. Before we get any further, notice how there's little button icons here. That's because right now all the steps are buttons. But we don't need them to be buttons whatsoever because we just wanted to display the text. So we're going to click on the button and we're going to hide the button form and actually take this whole action away. Because all we need in this situation is for it to be a hidden until triggered option. That's the same for the other 2 steps. So delete their actions and make sure hidden until triggered is selected on them. Now, this is the fun part. This is the part that becomes extremely confusing. We're going to do a Command C after left clicking on an arrow and then Command V to paste. So right now, this button right here is our first button. This button here is going to be our second one. So this one will hide step 1, show step 2, hide step 3, show the back button 3. It's going to continue hiding next pumpkin 3, and it's going to continue hiding next pumpkin 6, which is itself. And again, this is all an on click. So when you click on this button will hide, not before. Here is where it gets tricky. Since we added a new button, we have to go back to the previous button and make sure that we're showing that button after this one hides. So right now we're left clicking on this button and it's going to hide and show this one. But if we don't change it, it will ignore that option. So make sure next pumpkin 6 under your next pumpkin 3 button is turned on. We're going to do the same thing for the last button, which is next pumpkin 7. We're going to make sure step 1 and step 2 are hidden. Step 3 is showing. Back button 3 is showing. Next pumpkin 3 and next pumpkin 6 are not showing. And then it's up to you about this. If you want the arrow to show afterwards, you can. I'm actually going to make it hide after we click on it. And then, again, you're going to have to go back to your previous button and make sure that the next button is going to show. That way, when we click on this button, it hides. We have the identical button beneath it that shows. Again, this one will hide when we click on it, this one will show. Now here's the last part that throws people off completely. Right now, if we align these and we ended up putting them on top of each other, it still would be flawed. The reason being is because all of these buttons are showing at the same time. We need to make sure that only this button shows first, and then when you click on this button, the next button shows. So make sure that your next two buttons, or in other words, next pumpkin 6 and next pumpkin 7, are hidden until triggered. Otherwise, the process will go right through to the end again. We're going to hide our buttons and forms, and now we're going to align them up. We're going to put 7 down first, 6 on top of that, 3 on top of that. Now freeze. Before you export it out, here's the last problem you got to deal with. Go to your layers panel. Take a look. Next pumpkin 7 is above next pumpkin 6 and 3. So right now if we click on it, it's still going to jump to step 3. Rearrange your layers accordingly and be as organized as you can be to make this easier on yourselves. With that being said, now if we do a file export, we name this test. We make our format Adobe PDF Interactive and hit save, hit OK. Let's export it right over. And now we should be able to go down to this page, test it, step 1, step 2, step 3. And one last little bit of information. Now that we're done, we can do a file, document setup, facing pages, and hit OK. That will take us back to our normal layout as the book. And just to show you one more time, I'm going to file export right over my previous test file. Just to show you that even though you switch orientation and setup in the middle of your document, it won't affect it any specific way. So I'm going to zoom up on this page though. Left click, step 1, left click, step 2, left click, step 3, and out. So there you have it. It's a really frustrating and confusing process since we don't have a stop action. But you can always find a workaround. And in this case, it's a little bit more difficult, but definitely possible.